Hello and welcome to another episode of Software Should Be Free with Tim Abel and David Sheardown. Lockdown continues for COVID-19, so this is not a tightly scripted episode about a single subject. This is myself and David really helping each other with our mental health by just having a bit of a nice chat, talking about how it's affecting us all. We do cover some topics that you might find useful, like the current state of tech market, the economy as it might become, some resources in the show notes for that. I was encouraging David to get going on his Just 5 Minutes podcast again. Forgiveness in relationships, that kind of thing. So without further ado, I'll let you listen to us chatting away. Enjoy. I was occupying the time by recording some singing.
It's come to that, is it?
I'm now a starving musician.
Yeah, well, I suppose that's more believable than a starving programmer, isn't it? Because nobody believes that, It's like, how could you be starving?
Yeah.
It's like, But you're there with your little tambourine.
How to disappoint you?
Yeah, your virtual tambourine in a virtual world now, and it's.
Well, I can't afford that, so I'm just going to have to beatbox on a separate track.
Oh, crikey.
Yeah, I've been practicing Bill Withers' "Ain't No Sunshine."
Oh,
really
come on. I mean, we had 3 weeks of sunshine, It's good for the garden.
No, it's a lovely little love song.
Yeah, it is actually. Yeah. Actually, there is a joke about Bill Withers, isn't there? About a duck or something. Bill Withers or something. Anyway, I can't remember it, but yeah. What's the other famous one that he did? Well, I'm sure he did a few, but there's another really famous Bill Withers song.
Lovely Day.
Lovely Day. Thank you. Yeah. Well, there you go. It's the sun's
it's going to be a lovely day. Lovely day. Exactly. Lovely day.
Yeah. See. Yeah, that's the one I remember actually. So yeah. But so how have you been anyway?
The world's all right with me. Oh goodness, ups and downs to say the least. Yeah, Sophie said, "I think you're struggling with lockdown, aren't you?" Yes,
you think?
Yes, I am.
Yeah, you think? It's like the red eyes, red rimmed eyes, and no, it is. It's affecting. I don't know. I feel like I'm a little bit in a weird bubble. I don't know. Honestly, it's almost like I'm in this bubble and I don't see the cliff that's coming. I don't know, and it's not head in sand. Not on purpose, but I think it's different for a lot of different people, and obviously in your case, families. That's got its own thing. People on their own. The guy I've been speaking to this morning, the SAP guy, he lives on his own, and again, it's just a different dynamic there that what we're seeing, because for us, that's why I say it's a bit like a bubble. Is that apart from the obvious thing when you go to the shops and there's the odd queue now and again, it's a weird world. It's like we don't have that interaction like a lot of other people maybe. So really, when you don't think about it, if you're not watching the news or anything, it's almost blurs into the background, which is weird to say because it is such a big thing. But then on the other hand, it's you start to think about the next month or two, because I've just found out that because of the government thing, the furlough period's been extended till the end of June now. So that's potentially not until July when they get back into work. And then you think, really? I wonder, is that actually going to happen? Because it's going to take a while for the engine to ramp up. And certainly the type of work that I'm in, I don't know. I mean, it's not getting panicked about it because I realise, on the positive side, I've technically got 2 months to actually decide or possibly look at other options, so I can't really complain. It's not, so.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like your employer is pretty secure because they're partly in the e-commerce space, aren't they?
Yeah, they've got a well. Realistically, they're really in the integration space, which is actually
yeah,
quite a. And yes, e-commerce is a big part of it,
yeah,
and you would expect that as things start to ramp up, but it's like everything. I suppose it's a timing thing, isn't it? Is how
yeah.
quick things will ramp up. But
Yeah,
I get that.
I've been
Yeah,
worrying a lot about the impact on the economy and how that trickles down to everyone and everything. I was going to say what you
yeah,
said
yeah.
earlier about like everyone is having a very different experience of lockdown. It's very true. Like on my
Mm,
extreme,
mm,
well, I say extreme, like aspect, I've got small children, but on the flip side, we've moved, we've got a garden. We're not in central London in a flat or anything. And then,
yeah,
like you say, there's people on their own. I think if
yeah.
I was on my own, I think that wouldn't be so bad because I don't know, being a bit of a nerd, like I would probably just work on loads of projects.
I was going to say you just have a good conversation with yourself. You'd have,
Yeah, yeah,
but I know, but again, I think it's this time is actually, dare I say, and it's not meant to be in a preachy way at all, but I think
mm,
it's what I'm finding is we all look, let's face it, day to day, normally, before even all of this happened, we all live in our own worlds, don't we? We get on with stuff. You, you're not
yeah,
really that aware of everything else going on, etc. But I think that's what this is actually doing. It's making it, like you said, you're thinking about that trickle down effect, how it affects everyone else, and
mm,
uh, there's uh, and talk about the laws of relativity. I think that's an understatement, because what's really bad for someone is actually not so bad for someone else, and it's a weird perspective, because like you said, it's the one time where everyone is having lots of different challenges in mental states and you know
yeah,
financial states or whatever it might be. But it is being
yeah,
I think the general idea is that it is, I suppose, again, I don't want to sound preachy, but it's almost like expanding that horizon that we normally wouldn't necessarily have, that
mm. Yeah.
which
I've been like, there's definitely upsides for some people in some ways. Like, I mean, as it happened, I'd finished a contract anyway, um, but it's been really good spending time with the family, like
yeah,
seeing
yeah.
more of the kids as they grow up. But yeah, it's definitely been coloured by the occasional blow up as everybody gets a bit cooped up and
Yeah,
like there's nothing
yeah.
like spending 24/7 with somebody to be like uh, so aware of everybody's
Mm,
flaws
mm.
and
Yeah, yeah,
foibles.
hey, yeah, yeah, yeah. And I
Yeah,
think it's realizing we all have them. And I look,
yeah,
myself and my partner, I mean, we, I not through any design, but we've have worked at home, both of us, for quite some time,
mm,
and so we've been quite fortunate. I'm not saying nothing like that happens, but
mm,
you know what I mean. We've been quite fortunate of that, and I
yeah,
know, because exactly what you just said. I was speaking to a couple of other colleagues of mine on, as we do, just been catching up a little bit, ad hoc when we
hmm,
can. But it's the same sort of thing. They're not used to be like, even if they're working from home, their partner might work and be going out
hmm,
and things like that. But now it's like
yeah,
yeah, it's like
yeah,
it's like different people. It's literally a different side, and
mm,
like you said, everybody has got their ways and means, and really that gets smoothed out, as you say, because in normal circumstances, like for you, you said, you go to work for a
hmm,
period of time during the week, and vice versa, other people do that even when they work from home. There's always periods of where there is that gap, really, I suppose.
mm,
So yeah, but I can imagine, because this, I think for the first maybe 2 or 3 weeks it was sort of doable, but I think now it is actually getting to that grating point, isn't it?
yeah,
So yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
We're on special rules, so we did this during like pregnancy and like when the kids were tiny, which is like everything will be forgiven. Like you just like like you can have a bad day, you can lose it, you can like scream at each other and throw rocks,
Yeah,
metaphorically,
yeah,
and
yeah, yeah,
the
yeah,
next day it'll be okay. And we're sort of back on those rules with lockdown. Like it's okay to have a meltdown. It's okay to be horrible to each other sometimes,
yeah.
and then forgive. I think I said
I think
last
it's
time we were
understandable.
having. Yeah, I think last time I said
Mm.
we were having like 2 good days to one bad day. I think that
Yeah.
ratio might have moved a bit more towards 50-50.
Yeah. Well, I would I would hazard a guess and think that you know you're very much not alone in that side.
Yeah.
Again, uh, one of my colleagues, they've got I don't know. I think they're early teenage sort of kids, and yeah, they've had a sort of different challenges because the fact that they, like I think we mentioned before, they used to at that age wanted to be a bit more social, going out and all the rest of
Mm,
it, and having to say, look, you can't,
can't.
you
Yeah.
can't do this. It's not that, So I think that's been really really tricky, and I think
Yeah. Very
you can
hard for the
just
older kids.
almost,
I mean, our oldest
yeah, yeah,
is going to be 4 in the summer, and like
yeah,
he is
yeah,
missing his friends. So he was spending 3 days
yeah,
a week at nursery, but I don't think it's as bad for them. And the young one obviously is oblivious and just enjoying
yeah,
having
yeah,
time with his brother. But yeah,
yeah.
when they're like, I don't know, 7 or 8 through to
Yeah,
adult,
yeah, it gets a bit hard. Well, I was going to say they're almost mini adults, aren't they, by that
they
time?
are.
Because um, but I think that's why I think people are, and it's not an easy thing. I
Mm,
can feel the thing about easing up the lockdown, etc. That it's got to be in a measured way, I suppose. But at the
mm,
same time, you can sort of feel the whole country just wanting to at least get a bit of a roadmap,
mm,
even if it's just a draft one, just to see, you know, what the shape of things, because it is. It's. I mean, I have moments where, yeah, because I don't really go that far on a I never did anyway on a daily basis, really, because we're fortunate, like I say, we don't really have to travel too far to be able to go for walks and
right.
things like that anyway. So we're fortunate in lots of ways,
Mm,
but at the same time, it is that odd feeling. Like I went out to just get a little bit of shopping yesterday, and I thought
hmm
I'd normally think, you know what, I'll just go for a little bit of a drive and then I'll come back to the shops and pick up. But of
Yeah,
course, sure, you could do that,
you
but
could.
then it becomes a thing that, you know, if I'm driving somewhere where is obviously not anywhere near a shop, then,
Yeah.
and I realize, well, yeah, it's actually a weird world. And every now and again, it's that moment where it suddenly dawns on you, crikey, this is really unprecedented. It really is
Mm.
a strange world. Um,
Yeah, like it struck me that like everybody is hustling and working on their position in life or failing or doing whatever, and then wherever the chips landed, like that's your prison now. So
mm,
our
mm,
prison is quite a nice house with a decent garden. If you like, a friend of mine from the previous contract, he had a house purchase fall through not that long, so late last year,
right,
um,
right.
and then a second kid arriving.
Yeah,
So they were going to move because they wanted more space for the kids, and now they haven't got it, and they've got the 2 kids, and they can't do anything about moving house, and they're stuck in a flat. And so, oh, man, and you're just stuck
yeah,
with it.
yeah,
If you're in a
yeah,
deprived area and you're stuck in, because of your circumstances, now there's like nobody can do anything about anything now. It's like you were all going around that monopoly board, and whether you were that go directly to jail or whether you were owned half of Paul Mall, like that's you can't do anything now.
yeah. Yeah, there's no. You're absolutely right, and I think that's it. That's why for me, it's like counting lucky stars, really, because
Mm,
not nothing's perfect,
absolutely.
but it's not also. It really isn't that bad either, and
No, I'm
it could be
very
much much
lucky.
much much worse, but
Mm,
you're right. I know of people who are literally. There's one of the. I don't know him that well actually, but it's a guy who works with. Was a consultant that the company I work for, and
Mhm.
he's sort of stuck. I think he was due to go back to the US, but can't do anything. He's stuck in
Yeah.
a, now fortunately they've helped out. He's got some rough accommodation, sort of, not rough accommodation, but it's like
A park
basic
bench.
accommodation. I meant to say it might be rough, but I don't know. But yeah, he's away from his family and everything.
Oh
It's
gosh. Yeah.
so it's, as you say, wherever the chips fell, that's it.
Yeah.
You sort of can't do
Yeah.
anything, can't go
Yeah. A
anywhere.
couple of our
Yeah,
friends just got divorced not long before it happened, or were just separated, and like now they're stuck like that. Like one of our friends, their kid had a birthday party, and dad was just leaning in through the window just so that they could
yeah,
like kind of be there.
yeah,
But
yeah,
the lockdowns put them in different places.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
It
I don't
is.
want to dwell on the bad too much. Like
No, no, no,
I
no,
feel I
no.
want
I
to
think
acknowledge
it's.
it. Like
Yeah, I
it's the
think you do. I
reality.
think it is the reality that, and that's what I mean about the our own little bubble worlds, basically.
Mm.
Because, I think, like saying for one person it's this, for the next person it's
Yeah.
that. It's, but you know, but all being well, and especially at the moment, like you say, with the weather, there is
Mm.
hopefully light at the end of the tunnel, which
Yeah.
is a good thing to focus on, I suppose. So,
Yeah, it's been very
um,
good getting out. I just like
yeah,
that
yeah.
they changed the guidance a little bit in terms of like to start with. It's basically if you want exercise, you have to walk from your house or run from your house, and
Yeah.
they've seemed to have loosened that a bit in terms of guidance and the police's guidance on it, so that you can drive somewhere for exercise, which I think is particularly good for people like in a flat or something, or like in a big urban area. Maybe you could drive out to a bit of countryside or something.
Yeah, actually, that was good that you mentioned that, because I mean,
Mm.
again, where I am, there's not a big excuse to do that, but still,
Mm.
it's only it's a park area, I guess.
Mm.
It's not that massive, but it can get quite populated. So for
Right.
us, like we could drive 3, 4, maybe 5 miles, which isn't too far, and we literally can be in the middle of nowhere, nobody around, just walk. Which I think just to mix it up a bit, I think that's the other thing as well.
Mm.
Is you know once you get in a pattern, everybody wants to break that a little bit. So I think that
Yeah.
guidance is probably good. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, it's a bit of a mental health bit there, isn't it? Like,
yeah,
there's only
yeah.
so many times you go around your local streets before even that starts to feel like a prison, even if it's nice.
Exactly, exactly. It doesn't matter. We're all creatures of habit and get used to
Yeah,
stuff, and you do need you need to intersperse it, and if you can, and that's what I mean.
yeah,
I think as long as you've got common sense, that
mm.
guidance is probably useful. Yeah, for a lot of people.
Yeah. I know.
Mm,
it's
mm.
it's yeah. I guess I just wanted to talk a bit about it because it's like it's very real, and I think everyone's struggling a bit in their own way.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
on the like business and economic side, like I don't know how you're seeing it with your business and the other opportunities that might be floating around with you. So from my side, like normally having fallen off a contract, I'd probably go on JobServe, apply to basically everything, and I might apply to 100 things of varying relevance, and
Mm,
get a bunch
mm.
of phone calls back, and it keep me pretty busy just dealing with the inbounds off the back of that. Like literally, I've found I don't know 5 to 10 vaguely relevant things on JobServe this time around. It's crazy how quiet it is.
Mm, mm.
Fortunately, I've built some relationships over time, and there's a few things that might turn into something. I had an interview this morning, which I don't know if I was that
Oh,
happy
that's
with
good.
how it went, but it was a bit of an unusual one. Could be really good. Could keep me busy if I can find something to keep me busy. And I'm getting enough that I've sort of got some confidence that something will come up.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah. Oh, that's good.
um, and I'll come back to the economic stuff because I've been reading up on that. I was just wondering
Mm, mm.
how that's all looking for
Well,
you. Are you worrying about it? Because
yeah. Well, like I said,
furloughed.
it's a weird thing because I'm in a different position because of
Mm,
permanent rather than contract.
yeah.
But I guess because I straddle, I had one foot in sort of the pre-sales sort of POC R&D world, and then 1 foot in helping,
That's
so
proof of
on the
concept, isn't
consulting
it?
side.
Proof of
Yeah,
concept,
proof of
research and
concept.
development. Yeah.
Yeah, doesn't it? It's sort of just like, it's almost a bottle without a label on that people just throw at anyone, like, oh, we're not quite sure what to do with this, let's just throw it over there. And the reason for that is because, again, the company I work for, with a lot of integration, yes, there's a lot of e-commerce stuff which is repeatable and known environments, but we do get a lot of stuff that it's down to, I wouldn't say R&D, but certainly a proof of concept where there's maybe whether it's a web service or an environment that we've never touched before, then I have to go in and have a look and see how would that map to our business processes, and how easy is it to work with, and all the rest of it. So bottom line is, though, that world it's not a direct correlation for me to like when you're a developer, you're actually working on a project. There's some, you're working against something that is, you're a worker basically, and not in a horrible way, but whereas this is sort of almost hypothetical stuff, because some of the stuff may come off, or you're helping salespeople, but it doesn't always equate to a direct sale or so I think for me, even though I can see, and even I'm furloughed at the moment, there's regular sort of fortnightly catch-ups with my boss type of thing, because that's part of the furlough scheme apparently. And the signs that there's things getting interested, and I used to, obviously I do a lot of training as well, so there is, on one hand, it feels okay that even if it is July, which is weird to say because it's almost like half the summer's disappeared, but anyway, on one hand, there's a feeling that will be there, and that there will be enough to essentially bring me back. But then reality is, it really depends how quick that's going to ramp up. So I don't know whether they furlough longer, which you can sort of think, they can't do this indefinitely. There's going to be a point, even if they furlough it for like July, it's got to be a point where it has an end game, because they just can't keep bleeding millions, billions of dollars, pounds.
Oh, the government, right? Not your
the government. I mean,
you're paying the 20% difference in salary.
Sorry.
So is your
no, they're not.
Okay, so your salary went down. Yeah, because they said that it has to be in the contract that's possible. Otherwise, the employers have to top up, and that's that's obviously still a significant cost.
Well, the irony is that a lot of other people who have been furloughed that I'm aware of, that I know, their companies have topped them up to 100%, which is great. But
it's good for the person, but potentially bad for the company.
Well, that's it. So, and I must admit, and right now, because I've got my salary, to be fair, is made up of also a car allowance, but that isn't included. So for me personally, it's not really 80%, it's more like 60%. So it's a bit more of a hit. But again, I could complain and say, look, really, I want my 20%, but the company's trying to stay afloat with, let's face it, a lot of stuff that we, as a business owner, you just don't see the other end, do you? When you're an employee. So I do appreciate the fact that there's something, but to be honest, it's just forcing me to look at even some temporary things as well, which I am.
How's the entrepreneurial spirit going?
It's a bit like an old steam engine that hasn't been started for a long time, so it's taken a while to crack up. I might need to replace a few parts, but there you go. But that is, funny enough, what you should say. It's where you've had the luxury, and I think, dare I say, it's probably a good thing, the fact that when there's the regularity of stuff and that you've got the option to do something else, that's where the procrastination can come in. Whereas now it's almost like, you know what, that procrastination's a bit of a luxury. So we are honestly having to seriously think, hang on a minute, we need to, And now for us personally, it's the case of it might literally just be an extra few £100 that we need for a month.
Okay.
It doesn't have to be thousands. It's the difference of a few hundred extra. So
Yeah,
in
that's
some ways
achievable.
it's a little bit easier. Yeah, I was going to say it's a little bit more achievable.
Mm.
But as you said, going forward, honestly, I'm grateful that I've got a couple of months to sort of think about things. Well, not even think about, but at least maybe
Do things, surely.
formulate yeah, so do things. Yeah. But do you know what I mean? As in, I don't know from my type of work how quick that is going to ramp back up.
Yeah.
Honestly, I can feel it's probably going to be closer to the end of the year before that starts to maybe ramp. There's going to be it's almost like a delayed ramp up, if you know what I mean, from my world.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Do you have
the
particular things that you're interested in doing? Can you share? Or is it a bit
Yeah,
too early?
well, the odd bit here, odd bit there. Well, actually, the bits at the moment through Tully, my partner, she's working on. Ironically, I think a lot of other people have realised, yeah, maybe this online thing is quite a good thing. So she's been helping out with some WordPress stuff, and we've been looking at. There's a couple of little bites at possibly building some Shopify sort of stores and things like that. So again, they're quite good because they're small enough and discreet enough that they don't cost a lot of money for someone. Because right now, let's face it, everybody's going, ooh, it's basically contraction, save everything. So the good thing is that there's little pathways evolving there that, again, £200 or £300 here, £200 or £300 there. For us, that's the difference. That's the top up. In fact, I'll be honest. We're not looking necessarily at thousands. So yes, there's that work, and really, what I've started to look at is if there's other, because of the furlough process. We are allowed to work on temporary jobs, and I've checked that. So I am now actively looking at. Obviously, I can't take a contract as such. I can't really do anything full time, but I can look at temporary jobs, IT
So you
based.
can't commit for like a period of time.
Yeah, there's some weird, and I understand. Even if I was to get offered a contract for 2 months, I can't actually take it because it's technically a full time. Yeah. So it has to be identified as a full temporary job that which is weird. There's a bit of a grey area around that, I'm sure, but yeah.
It, like, aside from all of the challenges and mental health issues, like it is in theory a good time to be like building some very entrepreneurial thing, selling your own thing. It strikes me that you're like a really good educator, and that like maybe the online courses and stuff like that would be a good avenue for you.
Do you know? Yeah. I think it is, and that's the thing. The thing was, I do that in my day-to-day job, and I didn't really. I know it's a very strange thing that I again, when you've got the luxury of not having to worry about things too much, I do that a lot. I was doing lots of partner training and webinar training and all that sort of stuff that I think it's now trying to translate that to, you're absolutely right, to do my own thing. So
on that track, have me and Tully persuaded you to pick up the Just 5 Mins podcast again? Are you going to do that?
Yeah.
Make your public commitment.
Well, funny enough, I did. Thank you. And this is like I did actually start. I thought, right, I'm going to write down a couple of bits. And excellent. Thank you for the Trello. Yes, thank you. I have to say that, by the way.
Should we describe that quickly?
Which one? Sorry.
Should we describe the Trello board?
Yes. Sorry. Yeah.
So in Trello, you can make boards public, so anybody can see them, and you can also set up an email to board. So what you can do is you can have one of the columns be suggestions, and then any member of the public can send an email to that email address, and it will pop up on the Trello board. And then you can set up columns for like So say subject matter for just 5 minutes. So let's say gRPC would be an interesting subject to like get a little intro. So you could email that in, it'll pop up on the board, and then you can drag it across the columns to like from suggestions into yes, I want to do that, across to that's recorded but not published, maybe across to a that's been published kind of thing. People can see if you want to work in the open, you can like, and you know, if this thing builds a community, which I think would be ideal, then you don't need to think of all the ideas. People can say, oh, I heard of this thing, but I don't know anything about it. Could you talk about it?
Yeah, and I think and there's the thing, isn't it, about I've been so locked into thinking, you know, you've got to do all that work yourself, like you say, when it is open like that. You've got so it is a really good idea, actually, and it's a very clever one. I mean, in the past, I've used things like Zapier to do things like, if I use, I forget the tool now, is it Pocket or something? You know, the reading list one, yeah. So Get Pocket. That's it.
They got bought by Mozilla Firefox, didn't they? Got integrated.
Which I think they did, didn't they?
Because they just get integrated. I don't know.
Because they went through. It was quite a good service, and then all of a sudden it seemed to be that they did a massive upgrade, and a very good one actually. But the good thing with that is, with something like Zapier or if this then else and all that type of thing, the good thing is I can tag something like podcast.
Yeah, I've seen the tagging.
And then of course, and I do heavily tag things at least, but do I go back and look at it? Well, there you go. But if I tagged it, for instance, of podcast, I forgot it actually until you mentioned it the other day about Trello. I'd totally forgotten about Trello because I've been using with my work life. We've been on Teamwork. I don't. You've probably heard of Teamwork, maybe. It's an Irish company. They've done really well. It's a project management system. Blah blah blah.
Okay.
But yeah, so because I've been using that, I've ended up using it a little bit privately as well, but again, using Zapier, if I tag things in Pocket, it would add to a list, but of course you've then got to be disciplined and go and look at that list. But it is all, and I think the downside of that is exactly what you've just mentioned, is it's all siloed, whereas something like you said, the public Trello, I think that's a really clever idea, that working in the open like that, you're not just reliant on you trying to hunt down everything. So
given the idea is that people listen to these podcasts, get something out of it, and hopefully reach out and contribute and get involved. And like what I really want to see for this show and the one you're doing is people reaching out and saying, oh, tell me more about this, or I'm interested in this. Like picking our brains and we can talk about it in public. By the way, it was bought in 2017 by Mozilla.
Because you're absolutely right, because I knew somebody had bought them. I couldn't remember who, because they did, like I say, it was a fairly good service, but it was a little bit glitchy and it was a bit basic. And then suddenly, almost overnight, it went through this, obviously a pretty big release. I remember literally going from one week to the next and thinking, crikey, they've done a really big upgrade here. It's still a good one of those. I still use it. It is. It's been around for so long.
They've added text to speech to the Android one, which is great. Which means I can, for long form blog content, which I've struggled to really read lately because that's sit down read time, which I don't have a lot of with family life. But I can usually listen to things in amongst doing things and walking the dog and doing chores, so I can pick one of those kind of articles on Pocket and hit the read it out one. And you can make it use the local Android text to speech instead of the cloud one, so it'll work offline as well. It's good.
Hey, that's useful. I did not know that. It's Tim's Useful Tips. I think that's another podcast. There you go.
Well, I hope to sprinkle a few things like that into the show.
No, you do, and you really do come up with some corkers, if I could use that phrase. But
excellent.
No, you do. It's actually really quite useful stuff. Actually, that.
Cool.
Yeah, that Trello board thing.
Excellent. I'm looking forward to seeing that just 5 minutes come back into my.
Thank you.
I'm missing it, mate. I'm missing it. It's good.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. It's the wheels are moving. Like I said, the
Good.
steam engine's been a bit rusty, so it's just needed a little bit of maintenance work, but it is getting there. Yeah. So.
Oh yeah, and I told you previously, didn't I, when we were talking about it offline, that that there's the method of batching as well, so you can
that's useful.
Recording because you want a scheduled output, but you don't necessarily want to like never be able to take a holiday. You can record like spend one whole day recording 10 of them or 20 of them, and then you can schedule them out. And we think that you can do that in in transistor.fm.
To schedule, put when it goes live, essentially, isn't it? I think. Yeah.
And then all you need to do is think of a business model.
Isn't that the same with a lot of techie nerd type things? It's like you do the things that you like to do, and then you go, oh, how do we make money out of this?
I'm sure that, I'll say it again, I'm sure there is one for this. So I can totally see, given like CTOs, team leads, people who are just like developers but stuck on one particular track for a while, like I have been on and off. You're always a bit terrified that you're going to get blindsided by a technology, and just having this show where it's like, oh, did you know gRPC is this better alternative to using HTTP REST endpoints for communicating between microservices, and this is the rough shape of it. So I watched to give you something more concrete. So I wanted to know that. So I watched an hour and a half presentation at one of the virtual meetups that's going on, which was really good. I think I sent you a link to it. But that's a big investment of time.
Yeah.
And so if you can give me, 50% of that in 5 minutes, that's a big win for everybody. So there's definitely value there. If you can then build an audience, a mailing list, a community that like an active community, then I think you really want to get some kind of funding model in there, because it'll encourage you to keep it up. Like if it's just a hobby, and if it's just free, then eventually it's like, why am I doing this? Get some small income. So you could do Patreon, like just donation.
I was just thinking that. Get
sponsorships. People who want to get their word out.
I was just thinking, and I don't know why this, and maybe I'm just aware of time, by the way, for everything, but just something that's jumped up is, do you remember years and years ago, maybe you don't, maybe you do, I'm trying to remember, but it was a guy that decided to have a web page, and he had a crazy
idea. $1 million web page?
I think it might be, but you could sponsor a pixel.
Yes,
you had to pay for a pixel. Is that the $1 million? Is that what it is?
Yeah, because it was 1,000 by 1,000 pixels.
Thank you.
Yeah,
and who would have thought that would work?
Yeah, it was a slow build. It went exponential. Yeah, it was a good one.
It did, didn't it? And I know maybe I haven't done the research, but it's a long time ago, isn't it? It was definitely like early 2000s, maybe, I'm guessing, or something like that. But maybe maybe it's like the just 5 minutes. You can sponsor a minute.
It's $1 million podcast. Oh wait, doesn't that make it 1 million minutes long? You could buy seconds. How long's this? Oh, never mind.
Let's do say. Yeah, I think I was a bit over ambitious there. Maybe a second.
But yeah, you could definitely do sponsors on that one that are in keeping. So maybe like Telerik, for example. 5 minutes on Telerik, and it could be in keeping, and you could note that it's sponsored. Yeah, I don't know. It seems.
I think as long as you're open about that stuff, isn't it? I don't have a problem. I think I've noticed a lot of podcasts. People will say at the beginning, I've got this. So yes. I think the short answer is yes. I really do have to get that back up and spinning. Like I say, the steam is building.
Good.
The engine's there.
This is me living through
WD-40.
I want this to exist, so I want you to do it. and I want it to be a success, so I want you to make some money off the back of it.
Brilliant. That's really kind to say, actually. Well, hopefully to share back actually as well, because I mean, why not? It's yes, we all need a level of financial stability, but from that point forward, if you can. Dare I say, pay it forward, pay it back, whatever
Yeah.
you want to use. And there's various things and films about that, but it is a really good point because yeah, there's a lot of stuff that you could do. Like I was just the other day was like there's a lot of charities that are, and again this has cropped up a few times over the years where you can obviously give money to charity, you can give time to charity, but one that jumped out, and I forget the name actually now even, but was obviously disadvantaged kids or whatever you want to call it, where they're trying to learn some technical skills, etc., coding or whatever it might be. So there's a lot of stuff like that you can actually do as
That
well.
was one of the markets, wasn't it, that I was thinking of for your show, would be people who are new to the technical scene. Like you, as a new developer, you learn to do a particular thing, but one of the things you lack that experienced developers have is this really broad knowledge of all the possibilities and all the technologies that are out there, and it would be quite a good way of getting up to speed more quickly.
Yeah, and I think that you hit the nail on the head there, because I think that is one of the things, and I guess it's self-confidence as well, because like you say, there's experts and there's experts. But there are a lot of entry points that we take for granted, isn't it? That even some basic HTML and JavaScript, you sort of just wash over because you just think, oh, well, everybody knows that. Well, not really. And even if they do, there's angles that we've learned, I suppose, that, like you said, because of history, that there's a certain thing where, yes, you could do this, but
yes, don't parse HTML with regular expressions, okay?
Oh, come on, that's fun, isn't it? But I think you're right. I think there is that, and I think that is the other thing. Is you're absolutely right. Is that realizing that little bit of snippet can be enough to grab people on and give them a bit more confidence to actually go a bit further. So it's a valid point, actually.
One of the things I've learned from all the entrepreneur stuff I've been listening to is the first thing is to give value, and something like this definitely has value. And then if you're giving enough value, then you can look to capture some of that to make it sustainable.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
I wanted to mention back on the Trello thing, because I had some feedback from my wife that I'm quite pushy, so I shall leave you alone on the just 5 minutes. For
no, it's not. I think I need it.
Okay,
I'll honestly say I need it, actually, and I'm not just saying it for the purpose. I think.
All right, then. So when are you going to get your first? There we go. Let's have a date then. When are you going to get your first show out?
Well, I can put a stake in the ground. That's going to be Monday next week.
Oh wow, cool. Yep. Look forward to it.
Yep.
As long as you post the links on Twitter, then people can find that from this show.
Absolutely. Yes.
I was going to say on this show, so that Trello board that I described, I have actually, having gone, oh, this would be great for David, I then was like, oh, why don't I do that for this show? So if anybody's listening that wants to give us feedback, I have actually created a Trello board for this show of the same ilk that you can send suggestions and questions to, which I'll have to link to from somewhere. Email me if you don't have the link. So that's cool. Yeah,
that's a good point, actually. Yeah. And equally, that's a very good little pointer for me as well, because I often think of something, then forget. And if I can think of something and just add it to the board, I think this is the point, isn't it? And in my day-to-day job, I have to be, because there's so many moving things going on and so many requests coming in. You can't believe it, but I am usually quite organized. But when it comes to my own stuff, this is why that Trello board, this is it. This is and this is the migration time now. I think is that to become utilizing what I've been doing on a day-by-day basis, because I've had to, because somebody's there with a big stick, basically, and applying that to my own stuff. So,
I think I've mentioned it before, but on that front, best thing I found for personal, like, organizing and productivity in a long time, there's a blog article on the Trello blog. So before I did this, I would have these to-do lists that would just be endless and painful to look at, and then at some point I'd archive them and then start again. So there's a method called GTD, getting things done, and on the Trello blog there's an article by a bloke called Daniel Chait, maybe, from 2017, called The GTD Approach to Maximizing Productivity with Trello. And it outlines how to use Trello for GTD. And it's very good. And I've been using it ever since. And I've never felt so organized. And one of the tips in that is you have an inbox column, which is everything that's arrived in your mind, been thought of, been emailed to you. Like, it doesn't matter what channel it comes through. You need to get it onto the GTD board, and you use the email to board setting. So my phone mail client and my desktop one both know that email address. So if an email comes, like when I'm triaging email, next. Okay, I need to deal with that one. Forward, GTD, send, next. That's quick. On the phone, I've got the Trello app. So I take a screenshot. Like if it's something that doesn't have a decent sharing option, if there's an email, I forward it. If it's like, say, a WhatsApp chat, which is terrible for losing things because once it's read, I might screenshot the conversation and then share the screenshot using the Trello board.
The internal, yeah.
That works well, and that puts it on there.
Okay.
I've got the Add to Any add-on to Firefox, which is really good. That allows you to share any link to anywhere. There's a ton of plugins, and one of them is Trello. So I can just be on a web page, click the little button, create a new Trello card. That's really good, and it fills in a bunch of stuff. It attaches some images. It's really nice. And then, I might as well run through a bit of the process that GTD is. So then I've got an action items column, which is well-defined, like 10 to 20-minute tasks with a clear outcome. And then the next one is projects, which is bigger things. So anything that's bigger than that goes in there that you have to review. And then you've got a scheduled one. So like, I've put that in the calendar, or I'm waiting for someone to come back to me, and you can put timers on there. And because Trello's got a due by feature. When they're done, I just archive them. There's a reference column and there's a someday column. One of the things the article didn't cover that was taxed me for a bit was, after a little while, my action items got out of hand. Because I'll do that. I'll do that. And then I looked at the list and went, I'm never going to get through all this because I don't have that much time. Like on my personal side, I really struggle to allocate enough time out of my week to like just keeping home paperwork and minutia going. So I did a bit of research, like what the hell do I do when this action items gets out of hand? And the answer was, so on Trello, there's a three little dots at the top of the list. And one of them is you can move every card in the list. And it was just like, move everything to someday and then only move back the things that you're actually going to do. Because the thing is, it just reflects the reality. You've only got so much time. There are going to be things that you really think you should do, and maybe they're even actually quite important, but realistically, you're just not going to get to them because there's other more important things. So putting them in someday means you haven't forgotten about them. And if you do get more productive and burn through, then you can review the someday list and go, okay, no, that's actually kind of important, and pull those back into action items. And I have to say, it's been I've been using it for months and months, maybe even a year. It's been really sustainable, works really well, and I wouldn't do anything else now.
Yeah, that's a really good process, actually, because, I think what you've just mentioned as well, as much of the fact that there's a lot of tools around that help you do this stuff. And I remember I forget the guy who started it, but it became quite popular, with a notebook, and he went very analog rather than digital because he found that a lot of the tools were distracting. I forget the name, but it's the
creator of GTD. Is that David Allen?
No, I think it's another guy. It's basically where it's just literally on a notebook, and so
it's a different approach.
It's a different approach. It's just analog, but it was again trying to. I guess what I'm trying to say is that there's so many tools out there that try to help you. One of the things but what you've just gone through there is actually, I think, very valid, because it's a lot of it is the friction point, isn't it? You like what you said there with the Firefox extension about share anything, anywhere, and things like that. Because as soon
friction
as
matters.
Yeah, exactly. As soon as you have this, I've now got to log into that. I've got to copy this manually. You're going to not do it. It's just going to stop.
Oh, and the same on the doing side. So one of the reasons I like Trello is it's very flexible. So you can add attachments, you can add documents, you can add PDFs. So one of the ideas of GTD is when you get to action items, you've got everything you need to do that task. That was one of the criteria. It can't go into action.
It's atomic, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
like it's there. You're not going to flick into another tool to get some other data. Yep.
So like when I get the post come through and it's like, oh, you need to pay this bill. It's like, oh, well, why is that a piece of paper but not an email? But never mind. You just take a photo of it with your phone and then share it to the board. Or attach an existing card. Make sure you got the account numbers in there and what have you. You got make sure you turn on two-factor authentication on Trello as well.
Oh yes. You might, especially with that type of stuff. Yes, that's a good, a very powerful power tip there. I think.
And the other thing is the labeling. So the way I use labeling that isn't mentioned in the article is I will tag it as I need good internet. I need to be at home. I need to. I don't know. I can't remember.
That's a clever idea. Yeah.
Because there are some tasks that like, okay, I need to do that, but I need to be at home with good internet because I need that reference material from my physical archive. Some of them are like physical tasks, like go and get the rats out of the garden or go and pull the weeds up or, you know.
Yeah.
I haven't given my wife the email address to send things to my board yet.
So dear listeners, if you but do you know what, that is actually a very good thing, because tagging, and that's what I found with using Pocket, is that back in the day I was too specific, and you've got to be a little bit. The whole point of tagging, I think, is that you've got to be abstract up a few more levels, and I think that's what you're saying with the Trello tagging, isn't it? You've got to you can't make it too specific because it doesn't work.
Should I tell you what my tags are? Would that be?
Please, I think so.
Cool. Okay, Dog Lost is green, so that's the charity that I try and help out.
Of course.
So that produces a fair bit of things that come my way. Quite often they get punted to a specific Dog Lost tech board. Side Hustle in red for like entrepreneurial things. Limited company, so like doing my taxes,
all the stuff that you have to do.
Life, which is like everything that's just personal life, whether it's fixing houses or dealing with council tax. Helping others, which I don't use as much as I should. And then a nice tip is if you just have a prefix of an @ to specify like location. And these are all the same color. So the others are all nice and colorful. These are all like a slightly off blue, dark blue. And it's at good internet, at home, at office hours, at paper, at phone, at shops. So that's like what are the physical constraints on getting this thing done? Like office hours is quite a useful one because like, oh, I need to phone this organization and sort that out. It just allows me when I'm skimming the list of like, okay, what am I going to do next? It just doesn't take any time.
You just go hit the tag, and if I remember right, and it has been a while since I've used Trello. I did, back in the day, but you literally can do a search on a tag, can't you? And it just gives you. It's just I mean,
I don't have that much stuff, so I really need to do that. You can just scan it by eye. And probably one of the things is to not spend too much time fiddling with the board. I mean, you have to do the GTD process to make sure your action items is sorted out. Like one of the things I struggle with is by the time I've triaged my email and triaged the inbox on Trello, I've run out of time.
I was going to say, And there's the thing, the enticement of too many tools, isn't it? And you start to fiddle and, oh, look at this tool, look at that, look at this, look at that. And it's got this feature. By the time you've done it, you haven't, all you're doing is working with a tool and not actually doing the stuff. And
I'm a complete sucker for that.
You're not the only one, and I don't think anybody else listening to this would be as well. I think it's always the shiny new toy, isn't it?
I have to just find people that find my love of shiny new toys to be useful.
And I think that process is really valuable, actually. And as I say, whether it was Trello or something else, but as you say, Trello's been around for some time. It's from memory, I think it had a very good free offering, didn't it? Although it's always nice to support companies, so I'm not trying to say that always go for that. But if anybody wants to try to get that going, I think that blog article that you've just mentioned as well with Trello is
the GTD
probably a good start point.
Read the title again so people can find it. The GTD approach to maximizing productivity with Trello is very Googleable.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, I think that's a very good tip, and the way that you use it as well, because again, people will go to it and um, you know, dare I say, there's a just 5 mins, isn't it? That process that you've just
BTD and
mentioned.
Trello, boom, 5
Yeah,
minutes.
yeah, because seriously, that it's a lot
Then
of
they don't
people
have to listen to
because
us for an
this.
hour.
Who wouldn't? Come on, this is gold, you
My
know.
wife definitely wouldn't.
But you know what I mean. It really is, because it's again, it's not so much about the tool. It's about picking something that works. It has the frictionless sort of entry point where, like you said, I like the idea that, because let's face it, we're all on multiple devices, multiple things. If you've got less friction to be able to get that stuff onto the board, I think the email to board is really quite an important
that's
one.
a killer feature.
It is, because the amount of time and until they actually have something in your email client that actually is a really nice, clean way of sharing it to something else, then
that'd be a good add-on for Thunderbird, wouldn't it?
Yeah, ironically, they do have it, believe it or not, in Zoho email.
Really?
You can actually click on an email and go share, and it will let you share with other things rather than just forwarding. Yeah, and I think it's almost like a no-brainer. You think, how has it not happened yet? That
well, there's a whole nother show. Is my ambitions to
that's another show, isn't it? Yeah, it's email. See, that's opened up that can of worms there. Did you hear it in the background? You know.
I have used Zoho. That's the hosting I'm using for Schema Explorer's email. And I tell you what, their servers aren't as quick as Toughmail that I'm using for my main. I noticed I have to wait longer for emails to show up, like when I'm using the IMAP. Yeah. Strange.
Okay.
So I'm going to run out of time any minute.
Yes.
I've got one more thing I really want to cover.
Yeah, please.
Because it's recent. So at risk of going back on the depressing train, because like this has been really good for my mental health, like just chatting and having a bit of fun.
Me too, mate.
A bit challenging.
Yeah.
But I subscribe to an email called Financial Mentor, and it is from a bloke called Todd Tresidder, Tresidder. I think I came across him on a podcast. And it's like a financial education one. So one of his recent emails was kind of hard to read, but like I like to understand the global systems, and I've been worrying a little bit. Like you mentioned about the government bailout, I've been worrying about the economic effect of that, and I'd sort of figured, well, that's likely to cause inflation, because I know that if they print money, that devalues the other money, and where else are they going to get that kind of volume to give to businesses? So he sent a couple of links. Let's see. Let me just open them up so I can reference them properly. He sent one which was his own article. Oh no, it's not his own article. This was an article by Daniel Amerman, CFA. Secret history of a 70% market loss, what a secular bear market in the 2020s could look like. I learned lots from this, filled in a bunch of my knowledge. So, you know, in the 1968 to 1982, they called it the lost years on the stock market. So the market was effectively flat for that period of time. But what I hadn't realized is to put these two things together is inflation and the market being flat. So it bounced up and down between like 700 and 1,000 on the Dow Jones Industrial Average. But what that doesn't show you is the real value of that money was also being eroded really hard by some quite high inflation. So if you thought you just came out flat, you were wrong, because what you actually had was you lost 70% of your money because of inflation over that period of time. And that's like, we've got a few shares, not much. I looked at the price of them the other day, and they've gone down by, what would that be? 12. It's not quite, it's an 8, so 12.5% because of the recent shenanigans. But if we then get into massive inflation, that money is very quickly going to be worthless.
Yeah.
And just sort of understanding how that all behaves. And then he also linked to a video, so that was kind of interesting in its own right, and a bit worrying. So like if you were to, yeah, so one of the ideas that I've heard recently is like, oh, well, everything's gone really bad, so maybe it's a good time to invest in the stock market. But if you put your money in the stock market now, because it's like it's dropped loads, even if it recovers its value, if inflation has run away, actually you're not going to do very well.
Yeah, that's an interesting point, isn't it? It's almost like the unseen part of the engine, isn't it? That you can feel like, buy low, sell high, but if inflation's in the mix, that's a different dimension to it altogether, isn't it?
Exactly. So they covered that. They said, looking at that historical graph, if you did the perfect buy low, sell high, so you bought at the worst drop and you sold at the highest peak, it looks on the face of it like you did really well. Actually, you still made a huge loss in real terms, adjusted for inflation. And the other one was a video called Cry Wolf. And that was quite long, and it was a keynote presentation. So it's Grant Williams' keynote speech on a website called Real Vision. That is worth watching. And that talks about gold and the history of gold-backed currencies. And there was an interim period with finances where it was kind of linked to gold, but they could like trade against it. So it was still kind of pinned to gold, but it was a bit more flexible. And then quite a while ago, they unpinned the currencies from gold. And I'd never really understood what all that meant. And they showed how like the price of gold was pretty flat for a long time, effectively, because the currency was pinned to gold. And then as soon as they unpinned it, the gold price goes up loads, which basically means the price of the currency has gone down loads. And by not having, so you've heard the government doing quantitative easing lately and having interest rates at zero. So that allows, so when you're not attached to any physical value like gold, you can generate infinite money. And what you pay is inflation. And they call that stealing from savers. So
because of
it doesn't, and what I hadn't realized, so I knew that if you had inflation, money in your savings account lost its value. What I hadn't realized is also the stock market has the same problem because it's all based on dollars. So the government can, depending on how provocative you want to be, the government can steal from all savers. So a big bailout based on quantitative easing to prevent the economy collapsing is based on taking all of the money from people who have saved and invested and giving it to different people. And without the hook to gold, there's nothing to stop that.
Because there's not a physical anchor point as such, is there?
Yeah, there's no concrete value.
Yeah, concrete value, because the gold is representative of literally, albeit, it's still got its subjective things anyway, but certainly it's got a physical bar of gold, for want of a better word, that means, yeah,
and the currencies between each other, so when the currencies were pinned to each other and it was all backed by gold, they used to literally ship gold around the world, and that was the system that balanced effectively the exchange rates. It's crazy. But the suggestion was that at some point it's all going to come home to roost, because so now all of the currencies are backed by the dollar. So say China and Russia, they keep reserve currencies. So if their currency were to collapse, they would then use their reserve currency to pay people. So it's kind of like
right.
Just like having the gold reserve was like, okay, this is all pretend paper money, but we can still pay you in gold if you really need it.
Yeah.
Confidence. So the reserve currency, as I understand it, is similar. So if the yen fell flat on its face, don't worry, we've got all these dollars we can still pay you, and they have real value. Now that it's all unpinned, the dollar's value is looking a bit precarious. And one of the things that propped it up was the foreign nations buying dollars to have as their reserve. And that's as a side note, that's one of the reasons why America has been forced to be such a huge importer, because in order for China to buy dollars, they have to send the Americans like their shiny plastic crap. And I'd never understood this before. It's like, this is why being a good American was being a good consumer, because China buying dollars, because the dollar used to be backed by Fort Knox's gold, kept it all working. Then they disconnected the gold from the dollar. Then the value starts getting eroded. According to this presentation I watched, both China and Russia have been buying gold and dumping dollars.
I heard about that. Yeah, that's over the last few years, isn't it? Well, it may be longer, but I definitely remember reading something a couple of years ago about that. Yeah.
So I'd heard that too, but I didn't know what it meant. But
same here.
So what it means is, if they can eliminate their reserves of dollars, suddenly the dollar loses its intrinsic value as a reserve currency. It's not based on anything. At that point, you get a collapse. So all of the leverage, all of the borrowing, all of the government spending that was based on the dollar being propped up by it being a reserve currency is now not based on anything, and all confidence in it evaporates. And at that point, all the leverage goes to shit. And the whole system, I'm not entirely sure of the details, but basically the whole system comes crashing down. And I think the logical conclusion of this was the gold standard would be reimposed, and it would be very, very painful. And this speech was before COVID, and they were basically saying it's just waiting for a shock, like something to tip it over the edge. And if the worry is that if we get a couple of rounds of COVID that are really damaging, that cause economic shutdown, that could be the thing that pushes it over the edge and causes the whole thing to collapse.
Wow.
And like I say, I didn't want to be depressing, but I think it's important to understand these things. It's important to
forewarned is forearmed, as they say, isn't it, really, though? And I don't know what the answer to it is. I don't see any gold reserves around where I am, and
go digging.
I was going to say I could, I know there might be some up in the Salisbury Plain, but actually, you're probably more likely to get, plutonium or something up there, or depleted uranium maybe on the, the test firing. But that's actually that's.
I hope you thought it was interesting, if nothing else.
No, I did. Because let's face it, it's.
Oh, the other thing was, this is unprecedented times, not just in COVID, but in terms of, this is the first time that we've had fiat currency that isn't backed by anything for a significant amount of time. And you look at the graphs, and they go up and up and up and up and up. And we just don't, we have no model for what's going to happen next.
There's no basis.
There's no historical.
Yeah.
Like, we've had depressions before, we've had corrections before, but that was all under the gold standard. Where that sort of anchored it back. But I should say as well, this Cry Wolf video, the Grant Williams keynote speech,
I'm going to have to look at this.
One of the best presentations I've ever seen. Like, really, like, if you're a bit interested in finances, it was gripping. So he wove together the story of the wolves in Yellowstone Park, is it? Where they all got wiped out to near extinction, and then they got reintroduced, and all of the knock-on effects of them being reintroduced. And he wove that story, and he made comparisons with the deer that just went completely off the chart. He compared the financial sector to them.
Wow.
And the way they strip grazed everything. And you can see that. Like, this is one of my worries.
The similarities.
The UK is propped up by the financial industry largely.
Yes, of course.
Not going to be fun.
Well, that is their biggest thing, isn't it? I really would like those links, actually. If you
I'll pass them on.
Happen to post those,
I'll put them in the comments as well, if I can.
Because again, I don't know what the answer is. I don't know, honestly. And it's almost.
I think the answer is be entrepreneurial. Like, always be one step ahead. Always be giving value. And if everybody else is like, oh no, I can't get a job, how can you serve them? How can you serve? How can you make everybody's lives better? If we can carry on doing that, we might be earning the heady heights that we can as tech people now, but I don't think we're going to starve.
The supply chain. And I think
like the fundamental, we're still getting food, we're still getting goods. Like
Yeah,
if that
yeah.
stuff continues, it's not going to get that bad.
Yeah, yeah. And I think you're right. And one thing that's been apparent again as a permanent sort of employee of late is the fact that your main source of income is one place. And I think entrepreneurial is not to spread yourself too thin, obviously, because that can also
that's
work
a
against
challenge.
you. Because the guy that I was speaking to this morning, he's got so many plates spinning, it's ridiculous. Right. And he's so, when a little peak happens, it's difficult. Yeah. But the problem is, the counter side to that is that he's sort of losing business by that, if you like.
Yes.
Because but it's a situation where there's not enough of necessarily one thing that he can actually clearly outsource it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's that weird, quasi world of that. But I think what you've said there, that be entrepreneurial, maybe have a couple of strings to your bow, or 2 or 3, or whatever it is. But I think you're right. That's useful stuff. I'd be really interested to see that. I'm that Cry Wolf video, especially by the sounds of it.
Yeah. Well, we will keep chatting about it, and we will figure something out. No matter what.
Thank you.
Let's keep this going.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. And obviously, look out, like I said, Monday next week for the Phoenix returns.
Excellent.
Brilliant stuff.
Right, I'm late getting back to the family, and I will be in trouble.
Yes, sorry, I know. Yes, I think equally. That is a very good
pleasure,
chat.
though. And I hope some
people
listening got something out of it. And I will top and tail this and publish it tonight, hopefully.
Brilliant stuff. Yeah, well done, Tim. Okay, yeah, appreciate it.
Thanks, mate.
Okay, thank you. But goodbye for now. Take care, everyone. Bye.